What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of a fight that happened to me when I was 20 years old that basically ruined my life and changed the entire course of my life events. Just to give you a little backdrop, this was a time in my life where I was just trying to, rebuild and get things back in order. Prior to that, I had been incarcerated as a juvenile. It was a nightmare for me. I was tortured and fucking tormented there by guards and abused in all kinds of ways. And, that left me scarred and damaged psychologically. So I was working on, putting the pieces of the puzzle back together in order for me to feel normal again. And I was actually doing well. I was living on my own. I was working in the Diamond District of Manhattan, and things were getting better. I had just gotten recently a large diamond dealer to open up and entrust me with hundreds of thousands of dollars of diamonds to give me the opportunity to sell them and work as a diamond dealer. So things were looking up, generally. There were a lot of difficulties still, psychologically, emotionally. I really wouldn't socialize. I would stay to myself. I reached a point where I was able to do the work at my home. I was working as a diamond setter in addition to selling the diamonds. And during those times, there were times where I wouldn't even leave my house for weeks at a time. I would just have someone help out, mainly females that I had in my life, help me out with errands and such. So also at this time in my life, I had just recently met who would become my current wife. And she and I were probably dating and seeing each other for about a month or two. And I told her that I was going to be unavailable for like the next 3 or 4 days because I had another girl, some magazine model, blonde from California that was going to come visit me. That in itself turned out to be a huge mistake, but I'll continue. And she wanted to come out. She and I had spent some time in Vegas together, spent some time in LA, and she had been wanting to come out and visit me for some time. She came out and she was at my house. Everything was fine. As I mentioned, I wasn't really social at the time. She wanted to go out. It was a Saturday night. She wanted to go out. I also had some cousins that I was pretty cool with at the time who also wanted me to go out with them. So I was convinced. I was so reluctant. I didn't want to go. They wanted to go to some nightclub. I didn't want to go. But I agreed, and we went. So we go to the club. Everything's good. We're having a good time. I got really, really drunk. I drank so much that night. And when we were leaving, I wasn't really familiar with the area. I was just trying to get back onto the nearest highway where I knew how to get home from. And I made a wrong turn. I turned to the right when I was supposed to turn to the left like everyone else did. They left a couple minutes before me. And that wrong turn actually created the opportunity for this whole nightmare to begin. So I'm going down this road, and it's like no other cars on the road. It's probably 2, 3 in the morning, and a truck pulls up behind me, a pickup truck, comes flying towards me and starts high beaming me, and he's trying to get around me. I didn't even know what was happening, so I just stopped right in the middle of the road. Right in the middle of the road. I just stopped my car, and before I knew it, before I could even figure out what was happening, the guy jumps out of his truck with a baseball bat and breaks both my side windows, the passenger windows, with a metal bat. Shatters the glass. The girl from California is sitting there, and I look over at her. She had a sleeveless dress on and low cut, and she was just covered in blood. The glass shard just hit her, and she was bleeding everywhere. And I saw the look of fucking fear and shock on her face, and I just reacted. My reaction was, I had a baseball bat, a metal bat in my car also, right in the passenger seat, right where her leg was. I grabbed that bat, I got out of the car, and now it's me and this fucking guy. Big motherfucker, bouncer looking motherfucker. I was 160 pounds at the time. He and I standing there with bats, and I remember saying to him, "Don't fucking come at me with that bat." And before I could even get the words out, he charged at me and swung at me. I dodged it, he hit me in the shoulder, and the fight was on. We started fighting in the middle of the fucking street. I started winning the fight, and I just kept screaming at him to drop the bat, and he wouldn't fucking drop the bat. And I remember before he even engaged me, I looked at him, and the guy was shaking and shit. Looked like he was high as hell on something. I don't know what the fuck it was, but this guy was fucking going crazy. I didn't even know what it was about. I had no idea. I'd never seen the guy before. So he wouldn't drop the fucking bat. I was so drunk that I just got so enraged by what happened. You know, seeing the girl bloodied up like that and shit, and him breaking my windows, and the fact that he fucking tried to take my head off with the bat. He could have killed me, and I let it get too far. You know, I fucked him up really, really bad. Really bad. When I finally got him to drop the bat, he was really hurt. And I continued, you know, and I fucking destroyed this man. And I broke so many bones in his body, in his legs, in so many different places. He had broken ribs, 4 different skull fractures where I cracked his skull with that bat. I remember one of them, I hit him right on the fucking head, and his shit just popped. And I was covered in blood. I was wearing a white dress shirt, and I was all red, covered in his blood. We were like scuffling and shit before I got, you know, in control of it. And during that scuffle, a chain broke off his neck, a gold chain he had. So I lost control. I went into a rage, you know, and a lot of it, I'm sure, was just the built up emotions that I had for the shit that happened to me. I was just like a ticking time bomb. And this guy gave me the excuse to fucking go off. And I did. And I took it way too far. So I beat the fuck out of this guy, and I picked up that chain and put it in my pocket, thinking, fuck this piece of shit. He broke my windows. He's lucky I didn't fucking kill him. But the way I left the guy, I remember everything happened like in slow motion from this point on. He was on the ground covered in blood and spitting up blood from his mouth, you know, and then it looked like he died. I thought he died. In that same minute, you know, as I'm realizing what the fuck am I doing? I've been in the middle of the street and covered in blood. I got to get the fuck out of here. Cops come from everywhere. Cops come from everywhere. And next thing you know, I got guns pointed at me, and I just put my hands up and went down on my knees. And I dropped the baseball bat, and they fucking jumped on me, and they put me on the ground and handcuffed me. Then they go to the guy, and one of them, I hear him say, "Oh shit, it's so-and-so," and he said the guy's name, which I didn't even know. And then he said, "We're gonna fucking bury this motherfucker." Apparently, the cops from that same town work security when they're off duty in that nightclub where this guy also works security, some aspect. And so they knew each other for a long time. They're all fucking friends and shit. And I knew I was fucked. So I get arrested. They take me to the police station, and I didn't know what my charges were initially. You know, it was the second day that the cops started fucking with me and telling me that, you know, the guy's in a coma and he's about to die. A couple days after that, they came down, shift by shift. They were all fucking with me, and they told me, "He's dead. You're getting murder 1, motherfucker. First degree. They're going to bury you under the fucking prison. You're never going to see daylight again." And they kept telling me this. Now, I didn't know if it was true or not. I figured maybe they were, you know, fucking with me, but it was very believable because I left the guy for dead. So I never said nothing at that point. You know, I didn't cooperate or anything. I ended up getting charged. Well, let me tell you, before I tell you the charges, the guy got out of the coma. He made a statement. The statement was basically that we just got in a fight with bats and that I fucking destroyed him and that he didn't remember anything after that. Probably like 10 days later, he made a revised statement. He changed his statement. And the new statement says that this whole entire thing was a premeditated robbery. That I planned this thing. I have a girl with me visiting from fucking California. I'm dressed up real nice. I'm leaving a club. And I targeted him. He was driving like an 84 pickup, a piece of shit. And I targeted him and almost killed him for that gold chain that was in my pocket. I didn't even realize what the fuck was going to happen. I didn't even anticipate that. I forgot about that fucking chain that they found on me. So he changes his story, and now they're all fucking lying against me. That's not what happened. It's fucking bullshit. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna beat this shit. I can prove that I had invoices of consignment on hundreds of thousands of dollars in diamonds that were entrusted to me, that I had. You know, I'm in the fucking business. There's no reason I'm gonna fucking do all this. I'm gonna premeditate a robbery like this so recklessly, so carelessly, when I'm drunk, when I'm fucking out with a female, and I'm gonna target this motherfucker. Of all the people I'm gonna target and leave and try to kill to gain benefit, I'm gonna do this for his piece of shit chain. It just was implausible to me that they could actually charge me with that, but they did. So they hit me with a bunch of charges. First degree robbery by itself was facing 20 years. It was aggravated assault with serious bodily injury, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and so on. They gave me drunk driving, a bunch of different shit. And I ended up, bailing out, and I was facing 43 years for that. That was my first major case, and it was a miracle that the guy didn't die. I'm very, very fucking blessed, and God looked out for me because I thought I killed that motherfucker, and I did cripple him permanently. But again, it was him as the antagonist. I couldn't even believe what the fuck happened. I never even seen this fucking guy. And from that point, I bailed out and my downfall began psychologically. I hired a good attorney, and that attorney started communicating with the prosecutor and stuff, and they were telling me basically that you're fucked. New Jersey doesn't have any self-defense laws, and the fact that they found his property on you, even though he changed his statement and made up some secondary shit, doesn't look good for you. The fact that you'd already been in trouble as a juvenile, you had violence, and you're just basically fucked. And they told me that even if there were a self-defense clause that you can basically use as a defense, it would only lead you and protect you up until the point that the guy was no longer a threat when you subdue him. But beyond that, you took it way too far, and you fucking destroyed him after that. So, which is true. I lost control. And this was the downfall for me. I was convinced, I was told by that same attorney that they were only going to offer me one offer. That offer was 20 years. The first one was 30 years. I ended up years later lowering that. 30 years, 85% mandatory before parole eligibility. And remember, I'm only 20 years old when this shit happened. And during that time, I was out on bail. I dragged the case out as long as I could. I was on bail for years. I got permission from the state of New Jersey, the judge that was handling my case, to move out to California. I moved out to California with my now wife's father on a business venture that he asked me to be a part of. He ended up dying a couple days after his 50th birthday, in front of me. And that began a second downfall now, where everything collapsed there. I had to leave everything I was doing there, come back to New Jersey, bring my wife back to her family, and I lost the employment opportunity. And I was just, he was a friend of mine also, a man who I respected greatly, so I was really, really fucked up, and I was nearing the deadline of when we were going to trial for this case, because I wouldn't take that 30 years. The lawyers basically told me that, look, they're going to fucking make an example out of you. If you make them go to trial and prove your guilt, they're going to throw the book at you. You're going to get the maximum. You're going to lose your life over this. You really should reconsider. And I didn't want to take any kind of deal. I thought that was crazy. But it was during that time, after my father-in-law died, that I just lost it. And I just lost all kind of hope. And I was just depressed and suicidal and didn't give a fuck. And I had such a fucking hatred now for these cops because they lied in this case. They fucking lied, and it just enraged me so much. And that was when I became my worst and, was my worst, most dangerous ever in life. I just basically, stopped giving a fuck and started being out every night and doing dirt. And I went on a fucking crime spree, and I was doing a lot of fucking crazy shit during that time. And I ended up catching a whole bunch of other charges because of that shit that I was doing, where ultimately when I was finally put in jail and I was not allowed to bail out anymore, they gave me bails of over $2 million total with special holds on me and shit. I got charged with organized crime. I got charged with all kinds of shit. And I went from facing the 43 years to now facing 143 years. So, it's a crazy story, guys. There's more to it after the fact. The guy tried to sue me for over $10 million. And I got notice of that and served with that right a couple days after I got out of prison. So that's another story in itself. I was very blessed that I was able to legally overcome that and beat that. But, there's so much. And I just want to share this with you guys because a lot of you guys ask me about fights and stuff. And, I generally don't speak about that. And I won't. I won't reveal things that happened. I've been fighting my whole life. But in this case, this is, on paper, and I was charged with these things. So, it's not an admission of something that people can't already find out about me, and that's the reason I don't like to talk about fights too much. But I made another video a couple weeks ago about another story, why you should not fight, where it was a guy I met who ended up hitting somebody one time and, killing him accidentally when he fell and hit his head on a curb. And that, changed this guy's life forever. And this is my own story of a fight where shit just went bad. I had no intention of fighting, and it just went down. And I beat the fuck out of this guy, and I lost control, and I fucked up. And it could have been murder one. If that guy died, the fact that they found his property on my person, I would have got murder one. It would have been told as a premeditated robbery, murder, and I never would have been out. Just like that. And that's only one of many instances where the things I was doing, could have got me life sentences. So it's a miracle that I'm free. It's a miracle that I was able to overcome that. It's a complicated legal explanation and story as to what ended up happening. I've talked about it in some other videos. But I was able to ultimately, I had to serve 3 years for that one, for that fight. And 3 years of my life lost. The years that I was out on bail waiting for that shit to happen were lost. And it cost me so much, and it really fucking ruined me. And I just hope you guys can take this, not as me talking some tough guy shit that I did this to this guy. I'm not proud of it. At the time, I was still real angry and different than I am now. I wasn't as mature. And I was just thinking, fuck him. If he dies, fuck him. Let him fucking die. He deserves it. But that was stupid of me to say. I still feel that he started this whole shit. He was way bigger than me. He could have killed me. And he didn't give a fuck about that. So if he dies, he dies. Yeah, but, it was just a miracle. And one of the so many times where I can see clearly now that God was looking out for me. Because that motherfucker looked like he was dead. And I remember when I ended up finally going to the county jail from that police station, I walked in. It was in Passaic County Jail in Patterson. And I walked in and one of the guards came up to me right away. He's like, man, you look like you fucking massacred a whole family of people. I was literally covered in blood. And I walked into this holding cell that was packed. It was a room with, benches built into the wall. One long single bench on both sides. Packed. People all over the walls on the floor. And I walked into that holding cell and I went to the left. And everybody from this bench got up and squeezed and crammed on the other side of the fucking cell, the holding cell. And left me there by myself. That's how fucking crazy I looked. And that's how much blood of this fucking guy I had on me. So I share this with you guys because, first and foremost, I'm always open and truthful about what I am and what I've done. I'm not necessarily proud of this, but I have never hurt or made a victim of anybody that was innocent, that wasn't involved in some crimes or that didn't start it. In this case, this guy fucking came out of nowhere. And, I want you guys to really think carefully about how one single fucking event, one decision, one wrong action can cost you your whole entire life. Your whole entire fucking life. And I'm very blessed to be where I am today. And I really believe that there's a purpose for me. And there's a reason why God looked out and pulled me out of that shit. And made a promise to me that I was going to get out when it looked like it was impossible. And I believe that a part of that is so I can maybe help some of you out there, even if, without knowing each other personally, you see that my story is what it is and that I'm opening up and telling you guys the truth. It doesn't make me proud. It doesn't make me look good. It's not to my benefit to reveal these things, but I do so in hopes that you may learn something and avoid this kind of problem for yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.